All right, algebra students, you have got the power to solve these problems. So we're going to talk ratios and proportions. Ratios and proportions are really, really important in life. You use them all the time. You just don't realize it. Anytime you're comparing two numbers, you're using ratios and proportions. So let's talk about what a ratio is. A ratio is exactly that. It's a comparison between two numbers. So when you are looking at the price of one thing over the price of another thing, you're comparing those two prices, right? So you're looking at a ratio. Ratios can be written in three different ways. They all mean the same thing. They can be written with a colon, they can be written with the word to, or they can be written with a division sign. Okay? So we are going to look at how we would write a specific ratio. So if we're looking at, there are 3 dogs and 2 cats, and I'm going to write this comparison in dog to cat, my dog's number would go first and my cat's number would go second. My dog in here, writing the comparison for cat to dog, my cat number would go first and my dog number would go second. So what does that look like? Here would be dog to cat. There's 3 dogs to 2 cats, 3 dogs to 2 cats. 3 dogs to 2 cats. So when we look at a ratio, we use the word to instead of divided by or 3 halves here. Okay? Now if I'm looking at it the other way, cats to dogs, I just switch my numbers. So my cats would go first, my dogs would go second. 2 to 3, 2 to 3, 2 to 3. Okay? So if I'm looking at my local animal shelter has 20 times as many of each animal, if the ratio is the same with the new ratio for dogs to cats. So you're increasing this by 20. So 20 times, okay, so let's see, I'm dogs to cats, so I got to make sure I use the right order. So 3 dogs to 2 cats, so I need to multiply that by what and that by what? Well, if it's both of them are 20 times bigger, I'm going to multiply both of them by 20. And so I'm going to have 60 to 40 and 60 to 40 and 60 to 40, all meaning the same thing. Let me move that up so it's out of the watermark. Okay, all mean the same thing. All right? So they are equivalent or the same. Now, let's look at the difference between what a ratio is and a proportion. All ratios that are equivalent or exactly the same. So the ratio of 3 to 2 and 2 to 3 are the same, right? Are called proportions. You will use proportions in cooking, travel, shopping, science, and lots of more things. Okay, there's 2 different strategies that we're going to learn to look if ratios are equal or if they're proportions. We're going to do the giant 1 method in class, but I want to show you the cross multiply method and look at that. So if I am looking at solving a proportion using cross multiplication, I'm going to solve each of these. So what does cross multiplication mean? It means you make a cross over the equal sign, like I did here, and you multiply these things. What's x times 5 going to look like? What's 10 times 3 going to look like? And they're going to be equal to each other because they started out equal. So if I do my math, x times 5 is 5x, right? And 10 times 3 is 30. X times 5 is 5x, and 10 times 3 is 30. Now, I can't leave this by itself. I've got to solve for x. What does x stand for? So, how are 5 and x combined? They're combined by multiplication. How do I undo that? We just learned that. We just learned that in the last chapter. I undo it by dividing both sides by 5 because I need to 1 this out. And 30 divided by 5 is 6. Great. All right. B. I am going to set up B for you, but I want you to solve the rest of it. Oh, never mind. I already solved it for you. Okay. X times 8, 2 times 14. X times 8, 2 times 14. 8x equals 28. We set them equal to each other, and then we solve. We have to divide both sides by 8 because we need our x by itself, and they're combined by multiplication. And 8x divided by 8 is 1x. 28 divided by 8 is 3.5. Fantastic. Now look at C. C is a little bit different. And so the most important part of C is that x minus 2. So for this x minus 2, anytime I see more than a number up here, I need to put this in parentheses. Okay, I'm going to do it up here so that when I cross multiply this, I'm not going to forget to do it by both of these. And then I'm going to cross multiply this, and I'm not going to forget to multiply that. So 7 times x minus 2 in parentheses is equal to 28 because 14 times 2 is 28. Okay, now how do I get rid of that parentheses? You know how to do that. We learned that in chapter 2. All right, I'm going to distribute 7 times x is going to give me 7x. 7 times, what kind of 2 is that? Oh, a negative 2 is going to give me negative 14. Okay, so let me move that up a little bit. So 7x minus 14, because 7 times negative 2 is negative 14, so that becomes a minus 14, equals 28. I bring that down. Now, I need to know what x is equal to. So I have to undo this. So I first have to figure out, okay, what's happening with the 7 and the x's multiplication, the minus 14. Ooh, there's addition and subtraction. I've got to go up PEMDAS to figure this out. So I have to undo my 14 first. Undo your 14 first by adding 14, positive 14 to both sides because this is a negative 14. This will 0. Once that zeros, I will get just my 7x because that comes down. And my 28 plus 14 will give me 42. So now how do I get my x by itself? I divide by 7. Divide by my 7, that'll 1 out. And 42 divided by 7 is 6. So in this case, x is equal to 6. Okay. Our next problem in our notes has to do with proportions. We use proportions when we look at different things on a map. So if you have ever seen a map, there's always a little strip with a measurement on it. That's called a scale, okay? And we're going to use scale factor when we're looking at the map. And in this case, in this problem that we're going to do, 1 inch is equal to 120 miles. 1 inch is equal to 120 miles. That's a fact, okay? So if we're looking at the distance from Tampa Bay to Jacksonville, those are both in Florida, it's about 1.75 inches on the map. What is the distance from Tampa to Jacksonville? So we're going to set up a proportion, 2 ratios, 2 fractions, okay? So my 1 inch over my 120, that came from this screen over here. 1 inch equals 120, okay? And my 175 inches is equal to how many miles comes from this part here. Because I've got 1.75 inches, inches needs to be in the same place. So if I put 120 over 1, which isn't how it was read because it was 1 inch comes first, equals 120 miles. So inch has to be on top. Inches to 120 miles. So I have to put my 1.75 on the very top, and I'm setting these 2 fractions equal to each other, but I don't know what this one is. And now I can do what I was just doing in deciding what x has to be for these to be equal fractions or equivalent. Okay? So I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to get 1x, and then I'm going to multiply this, and I'm going to find out that 1x over here is 210 miles. So when I multiply this, it's 210 miles. So Tampa is 210 miles away from Jacksonville. And that's how I would use that. And you know what uses it all the time, but you don't know it? Anytime you use your GPS on your phone, uses it all the time. So that's what happens in behind the scenes of your GPS. Okay, we can also use proportions when we're comparing prices, and that's called unit rate. So Pick and Save is having a sale on goldfish. You love goldfish, right? I know, I see them on my floor, my classroom floor. You can buy 8-ounce bag for 99 cents, or you can buy 30 mega boxes, a 30-ounce mega box for $6.28. Well, if you are you, because you're a high school student, you have no money, you want to figure out which is the better price, right? Well, I hope so. So how do we do that? Well, we have to look at ounces for cents. Ounces for cents or dollars. Okay, so I've got 8 ounces is to 99 cents and 30 ounces is to $6.28. So I want to figure out how much each of those is to each other. So how much is 1 ounce is what I want to figure out what is the better price. So 1 ounce is, I don't know how many dollars when I buy this form of goldfish. So I'm going to cross multiply and divide. I'm going to 8x equals 99 cents. Divide that by 8. And I'm going to get, if I buy the single bag, it's going to be about 12 cents, a little over 12 cents per ounce. All right. Now I need to do the same thing with the mega box. So the mega box is 30 ounces. Okay. So I'm looking at how much 1 ounce is. So 30 ounces is to $6.28. 1 ounce is to I don't know how much. I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to get, hold on, let me get this watermark out of here. When I do the math, I'm going to get 30x equals $6.28. Divide both sides by 30 because those are multiplied, so I have to undo that, right? And I'm going to get about 2 cents, 21 cents an ounce. So it's going to be better to buy 30 of these bags instead of the big box. Plus, it's more convenient to eat at your desk, which you're not supposed to do in my class. There's no eating in class. So if you were to buy that, or if you were to be at Walmart, and this would be your sale, buy the 8 ounce. But if you don't know how to do this, you can't figure it out. So what about if Bella takes 7 minutes to walk around the track, and she does it twice? What does twice mean again? At this rate, how many times can she walk in half an hour? So this is in minutes, and this is in half an hour. So how many minutes are there in a half an hour? That's going to be important. So let's look at that. Twice means times 2. This means 30 minutes. So let's see. How many times did it take her to get around the track? So 7 minutes is 2 laps. 7 minutes for 2 laps. How many is she going to do in 30 minutes? Well, don't know. So I'm going to do 30 times 2, and I'm going to do 7 times x, and I'm going to get 7x equals 60. Okay, so 30 times 2 equals 60. I'm going to divide both sides by 7, and I'm going to get about 8.6 laps. Okay, I could set it up this way too. I could do 2 laps is 7 minutes, but then my x laps would have to be on top. I still would do 30 times 2, and then I would divide by my extra piece and get 8.6. Same answer, different method, doesn't matter, both work. All right? That is all, my friends. I will see you in class. God bless.